Hi, my name's Charlie Appleford. In this video, I'll be speaking about my paper and the 4 articles that I chose to write about, and the 4 topics that I chose that relate to these and also relate to my own experiences in my field, which is commercial real estate. So the 4 topics I chose are leadership exchange, organizational silence, crisis communication, and organizational climate. So the first one is leader member exchange, and this was based on an article about Boeing. So the Boeing CEO, Dave Calhoun, stepped down after years of working at this company pretty much, and there were safety issues and Boeing crashes in the recent past, and kind of how he was in the public eye and just showed that there was poor communication skills throughout this company, and that just employees weren't aligned and many things weren't on the same page. In my own experience, I've dealt with this with my business partners, and just there being confusion, I think, before every business pitch, or for a meeting with a certain client, we try to be on the same page of what their requirements are. So they need this size building, they're willing to sign this long of a lease, and just like the basic parameters of the deal. So before any pitch, we talk as a team and say, okay, this is what they need. And in a certain case with me, it was my client, and I told my partners what this person needs, and then we got on the phone, and my business partner said, pitched a building that just was wrong, and it wasn't the requirements, and that was a communication error on our side. So that relates to the Boeing article of just having poor communication within the organization, and then when it gets to the in my case, potential buyer, that there's just miscommunication. It seems like we're not on the same page, we're not professional, and we don't know what we're doing, pretty much. The second one I'm going to speak about is an article about with Apple. So there was pretty much employees coming out saying that Apple was making them put software in to pretty much see their personal things, and seeing what they were saying about the organization and what was going on kind of behind scenes. They wanted to monitor what these employees were saying about Apple as a company. So this relates to organizational silence. An organization just pretty much where a company will be like, okay, you have to do this, but then not directly saying it, but pretty much being like, there's going to be consequences, or you're going to be punished. So this has happened with certain interns in my company. Not to that extent, obviously, but we're working on, say, like a lease agreement, okay? And they have, we go through it, we explain to them everything that needs to be done, and we say, do you have any questions, or is there any confusion? Like, you feel free to speak up, And these younger individuals starting in the company feel like they're scared to ask questions, and don't necessarily want to almost like not undermine us, but just don't want to speak their mind. And this can be an issue. We work very hard at Colliers, which is the company I work for, that it's important that you're able to ask questions and you're not going to get punished for this, right? So if we're working on a lease agreement and you're involved in it, and you don't ask questions, and then say we don't proofread it or review it, that can reflect very poorly on us. I'd rather you make a mistake, ask a question, and then I answer it, and we can go about it the right way. And when it goes out to the client, then it's delivered in the right way, pretty much. Third one was an article about American Airlines, where there was a crash near Washington, D.C., and 60 people died, which was very unfortunate. And this was actually a good example of crisis communication and how in the public eye and media, American Airlines did a very good job, all being on the same page and concisely explaining this is how it happened. We take responsibility for this, and the organization as a whole did a good job at handling the situation the right way. And then the fourth one that I'm going to be speaking about is in the paper is with Google, and they have had issues. Well, in this article, they speak about there being issues within the workplace with employees under very high stress, and just there being ego involved with some management and just not all being on the same page. So that was another article that connected to organizational climate, which was my fourth topic. I've seen this in my workplace as well, with just situations where people have egos involved, and they don't want to involve themselves with people that are lower positions in the organization than them. So I think all four of these topics really relate to these articles, and I'm very excited to hear your feedback on my essay. Thank you very much.